Tonight with Lisa Grant.
And that commercial break was a lot quicker than I thought it was going to be. OK, Jonathan, we've talked about what you should look at in a financial advisor. And Sharon, I hope that you and everyone else who's listening found that very, very useful. Let's move on to another headline. The EU, as a result of the drop in the FT, in the drop in the FTSE, I should say, has actually delayed its final payout to Greece. What do you think this is going to actually do to them?
The Greeks are heading into the abyss. I'm reading articles now and I'm seeing videos on YouTube of economic collapse, societal collapse. I'm reading about people living on the streets, whereas previously that just didn't happen. We know of facts such as if you're under 55 in Greece, your pension that you're going to get is cut by 40%. What it's going to do to them is it's going to create a situation where the Greek government might run out of cash. They might not be able to pay public sector workers. Now, I might say to you that there is an army, I don't know, metaphorically the size of the Chinese army, the biggest, quote, employer, unquote, in the world. There's a Chinese army of public sector workers in Greece for that very small population. And if these people don't get paid, well, clearly, we're talking about people's ability to feed their families.
Absolutely.
But you know, I want to put it in bigger context. In my very strident view, I think the Greeks have been laughing at us for years, if not decades. They saw the euro as an opportunity to hike their prices and also basically go on permanent leave and just pop into the office or pop into work whenever they felt like it. Well, you know, these guys have to accept reality. And here's an interesting statistic which your listeners will, I think, possibly be shocked at. Of the last 200 years, half of the time, Greece has been in default of bank loans.
Half of the time?
Half of the last 200 years.
Wow.
In other words, there's something going on in that society which just doesn't believe in paying their way. It's always about getting something for nothing. Well, you know, they've been kicking the can down the line. The euro was their last opportunity to do that yet again. The line is now at an end. They have been in a car at 100 miles an hour heading for a brick wall. They're now at the brick wall. Frankly, I'm not going to shed tears for the Greek people, because as far as I'm concerned, they largely, not entirely, they largely brought it on themselves. How come they didn't think at any time in the last 10 or 20 years that it might be too costly for basically everyone to retire at 50 on 90% pensions, for example?
Okay.
They knew something was not right, and yet they've gone along with it because it felt right at the time. They had a brilliant party. Well, unfortunately, they're now having the biggest hangover in history.
OK, let me play devil's advocate, because you know how much I love to do that. The European Commission basically made a promise that they would be bailed out. It said, yes, we will do it. Germany said, yes, we'll back it. They've basically said, we will do this. Aren't they pulling the rug out from under them by saying, well, actually, now we're going to delay it? Shouldn't they stand by what they've said and do what they've said they were going to do? There's millions of people's lives at risk here.
If I may say, if the European Commission actually did what they said they were going to do, it would be just about the first time that's ever happened.
Fair point.
The reality, as I understand it, is the Greeks themselves promised drastic cuts and serious change in their tax system. They didn't come forward with the goods. You know, you've got to play ball, and if you don't play ball, then Daddy's going to take the ball away from you.
Yeah.
And in essence, That appears to be what's happening. Also, I think it's partly because of German politics, because Angela Merkel in Germany, they're about the only people in Europe who have got any money. In fact, they are the people who will be paying for all these bailouts. And as we spoke about a week or so ago, Angela Merkel's party is just not liked at the moment by the German people, because the German people are very concerned that because of their hard work over the last 10 years, they've had wage cuts from top to bottom to make themselves competitive. They are just having all that wealth being withered away and handed to southern Mediterranean countries. So no doubt that's part of it, that the politicians are deferring until they can get the people on their side.
Yeah. OK, so let's now move on to your other favourite subject, David Cameron and the government. What do you think of his speech today? I mean, he's done a lot of rousing. He's done a lot of, at the close of the conference, he's got a lot of talking about, how we all need to pull together. And he wasn't just talking about the UK, he was talking about Europe as well. We all need to pull together to fight this. And he was listing all the things that have been done in government for the last year. Yada, 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 yada. And obviously his supporters are saying that he struck the right note and he's actually really bringing people up by their bootstraps and getting them to move forward and all this kind of thing. But of course, the opposition is already saying, well, we've heard it all before. And nothing's really happened. Did he really bring anything new to the table?
I think, to his credit, it was a Prime Minister's speech. Mm-hmm. It was upbeat, it was positive, it was rousing. I could have sworn I saw a British bulldog running across the stage wearing a Union Jack. And there's no doubt that it was a positive thing to hear, and many people will have taken heart from it. The question you posed was there anything new?
Yeah.
I didn't particularly see anything new, and more to the point, it's, on the one hand he says that people are reducing their debts and their credit cards, but what he didn't say was it's not because people are doing it voluntarily. They're doing it, if they're doing it at all, because the banks ain't lending new ones.
Right.
Therefore, inevitably, as some people pay them off, then if there's nothing new coming on the table, then in total the amount outstanding falls.
Sure.
Although it's very minimal, it's tiny numbers that it's falling by in aggregate. And he talks about how there's great challenges and how we're going to get through it. But this is absolutely emblematic, should I say, of all of our leading politicians. And I don't believe that any longer it's about left versus right.
Jonathan, can I just stop you for 2 seconds? I apologise for interrupting you, but we've got another call. Hello, caller, you're on the air.
Lisa, John from Costa Blanca.
Good evening, John. How are you doing this evening?
I'm fine, thank you. Listening, very, very good debate. Can you, your chappie there, tell me, how come Germany, that was defeated in the war, that was totally bankrupt, and now they're the richest country, the European state, they've got money. Why have they got money and nobody else has?
Jonathan?
They worked incredibly hard. They instead of developing a financial services culture, bear in mind that Frankfurt is a tiny fraction of the size of the City of London in global banking. They rolled their sleeves up, they got going, and they put elbow grease into creating the finest manufacturing in the world. Whether it's from top or bottom, they worked incredibly hard. I am a capitalist. In other words, I'm a firm believer that so long as you don't take the Michael with your customers and indeed with your suppliers, and you don't overborrow, if you work hard and you work smart, you make money, you reinvest it, that's the way to do it. Unfortunately, practically every other country on the planet has been having a party based on debt. Germany's household debt is minimal. Therefore, they're not paying much interest as households, and they're not paying as much interest by government.
John, does that answer your question?
It does, because obviously we and a lot of other countries bankrolled them after the war.
Yeah.
But they've worked a lot harder than what we have over the last 50 or 60 years.
Yeah.
As you say, we've been having a party the last 50 or 60 years. We haven't worked hard enough.
Thank you very much for your call, John.
Okay, Lisa.
Thank you.
Right.
Nice to speak to you. Bye. And Jonathan, we have another call waiting, so if you just hold on for one moment. Hello, caller, you're on the air.
Oh, good evening. My name is Susan, and from Meahouse.
Hi.
I would just like to ask this very knowledgeable young man...
Jonathan, that's you.
Hello?
Yes?
What he thinks about the situation in Greek to do with the shipping, because the shipping is very, very rich, and they are all registered under tax-free flags and sailing around the world, and every year they go back to Greece and have a huge, huge party which lasts 2 or 3 days. And I would like to ask him what is his opinion and why they're not forced now, when everybody's forcing people to pay higher taxes. They are not brought back to the country to put their money in their own country.
Thank you very much for your call. Thank you very much. I appreciate it. Thank you. Jonathan, what's your answer to that?
First of all, can I thank the lady very much indeed for calling me a young man? She's made my day. The second thing is, may I widen the issue? This is more an issue of large profitable companies from whichever country, whichever industry, getting away with tax murder. Whether it's global companies based in London or in New York, they use or indeed shipping, they use the Cayman Islands, the British Virgin Islands, and all that kind of crowd in order not ultimately to pay taxes. When you think about some of these multi-billion-dollar organizations, that they actually pay less tax than your small, medium-sized enterprise in North London. It literally is like that. And, the issue is that every country has a tax policy. And countries or principalities, like, for instance, let's say Monaco, will say, we're going to offer tax freedom. What you have to do is invest X, Y, Z. So every country has a tax policy, and the question is, should you allow businesses to use the tax policy of other countries in which you don't actually have much to do with them in order to pay no tax or very little tax in your own country? And I would say you probably shouldn't. The problem, however, is if you levy tax on these companies, where are they going to go? Are they going to leave? Well, personally, my argument to that is, well, where would they go? Would really, let's say, for example, British Petroleum, BP, would it really leave London?
No.
Would HSBC or Barclays, would they really leave London? Where would they go? Would they go to Wall Street? No, because JP Morgan's been threatening to leave New York.
Sure.
Would they go to would they go to Frankfurt? No, because Deutsche Bank threatens to leave Frankfurt. The point is, there's nowhere for these people to go. Thus, you should set a reasonable tax rate, and ultimately the businesses should pay a little bit more towards towards government economy. And unfortunately, the big corporate guys have been let away with proverbial murder with regards to taxation. It's not just the Greek shipping, it's banking as well, and it's all multinational companies. They're getting away with tax murder.
Okay. Hold on for 1 second, Jonathan. We'll go to another quick break and we'll be right back.
Tonight with Lisa Grant.
Welcome back, and we're still in conversation with Jonathan Davis. Jonathan, if we could just go back to David Cameron's speech. I was reading through it this afternoon, and I was interested to see that he put the spotlight on Afghanistan. He was talking about taxes and what the government has done, one thing and another. But he actually said, and I quote, almost every terrorist who took part in 9/11 was trained by Al-Qaeda in Afghanistan. If we left tomorrow, those training camps could easily become back because Afghanistans are not yet capable of securing their own country. But we will not stay a day longer than we need to. British combat forces will not remain in Afghanistan after 2015. By then, they would have been there for 14 years, and in Helmand province for 9. That's 3 years longer than World War II. Do you think that the reason he actually put it in the speech was A, to register the fact that he knows what's going on, but also B, to register the criticism of the amount of money that's been spent on the war effort?